go.
Okay.
Bam. So selling strategies, vehicle service contract, VSC, vehicle service contract, vehicle service agreement, whatever you want to call it. All right. So we are the subject matter experts when it comes to vehicle service contracts. And we need to know what those vehicle service contracts features and benefits are. And we have to tell a story behind them. So here's some of the features. And I had an experiment. I did an experiment. We should do this with our clients. To sit down with them and say, look, you have 10 minutes to give me a minimum of 10 features and benefits of a service contract. And you'd be surprised at the end of 15 to 20 minutes, you only have like 5 or 6. It's crazy, you know? We need to know our product. What does it do? It pays for mechanical electrical breakdowns, very simply. All right? There's various miles and year limitations. There's various coverages. And what we mean by that is there's stated coverage, there's exclusionary coverage, there's wrap coverage, there's powertrain coverage, even electronic and technology coverage. There's various deductibles, anywhere ranging from 0 to upwards of $500. There's also what they call a disappearing deductible. What that means is the vehicle is brought to your dealership, or our dealership will pay the deductible. Nationwide coverage, that's pretty cool. I told a story about one of my first gigs when I was with AutoNation at Dobbs Honda in Tucson, Arizona. And I had to do a deal with a retired couple, and they just bought an RV. And I'm trying to show this F&I manager that the AutoNation process works. So during my introduction, my interview with the customer, I kept asking them questions about their driving habits and stuff, and reviewed the details of the deal. And they kept saying, you know, we're towing the car behind an RV, we just retired, we're driving all over the country, blah, blah, blah. At the end of my introduction, the finance manager I was working with looks at me and laughs and says, you got nothing here. They're towing a Honda Accord behind an RV, there's nothing. So I went and did my presentation, but after I stated every product, I'd say the vehicle service contract is nationwide, the tire and wheel coverage is nationwide, even the guaranteed asset protection is nationwide. And at the end of the first column, keep in mind the guy was financed for 3 years, his payments are already $460. He says, you know, for only $169 more a month, I can have all that. And I said, yeah, and I sold the whole left side. It was like the introduction, nationwide service, knowing what these products do and the importance of the introduction. That's the day I drank the Kool-Aid. I didn't sell many left sides after that. It just so happened that the F&I gods were looking over me that day, and it just proved the point. It provides car rental, towing, and trip interruption. Most service contract providers actually enroll the customer in a road club, which includes the rental car, towing, and trip interruption. Then there's unlimited claims. They can't turn you off like an insurance company. If you have too many claims, they're not going to stop, okay? In fact, most service contracts, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, if the repairs exceed the value of the vehicle, they'll just pay the vehicle off. Is that correct in most cases?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, I think it's true, but unlimited claims.
Repairs can't exceed the vehicle's book value.
Right, that's what I thought. Okay, and then customers under the miles allowed and wants to keep it. Customers under the miles allowed and wants to keep it. I don't understand why I put that there. Does anybody remember why I put that there? Can anybody think of that?
Yeah. Something is turning here, Gerry. I think it was because like a lease buyout or
right.
Something, right?
Right. That's right. So the customer's under miles allowed and they want to keep the car, right? That's a benefit of the service contract. Should be under benefits. Peace of mind. Can't buy peace of mind, man. There's no price you can put on it. It's free. No, it isn't. It's a lot of money. Minimal out-of-pocket and no out-of-pocket expense. Refundable. That's very important. We talked about that, how getting someone leasing a vehicle today and offering them a vehicle service contract for twice the amount of time that they're leasing the vehicle for, so that they can have it the second half of ownership. In other words, if they're leasing the vehicle for 3 years or 36,000 miles, offer them a 6-year, 75,000 or 80,000 mile vehicle service contract. So if they do decide to keep the car, they'll have coverage for the next 3 or 4 years. Or if they decide to trade the car in, they get a refund that they can apply to the next one. So they're really, they're losing a little bit of money, but they have the peace of mind if something were to change along the way. Cancelable. You can cancel at any time. And then transferable. So it's going to increase the resale value of vehicle. There's more. There's more here. I mean, if we could go in like minor details, a lot more features and benefits. So why is this important? How's this going to sell service contract? Knowledge is power. That's what it's all about. So gather important information about your customer. That's why the introduction is so important. That's what I was leading up to when I told you the Tucson, Arizona story. Had I not found out that this customer was driving, towing this vehicle all over the country, I would have never mentioned Nationwide. And Nationwide is what sealed the deal on every product. So what will you be doing at the termination of your lease? Will you be buying the vehicle or something else? That's a question you should ask people when they lease a car, especially today. With the vehicles, the value of vehicles today and the way they're increasing or fluctuating, do you have plans as to what you're going to do at the end of your lease? Ask the question. I have no idea. I might keep it, I might not. Well, now I can have a conversation with the customer when I go to sell them a vehicle service contract. You mentioned to me earlier that you may keep the lease at the end, you may not. Let me share the benefits of the service contract, purchasing the service contract now and including in your monthly payment. How often do you like to perform routine maintenance on your vehicle? That's a determination of how much they care about their car. That's what you're asking that question for. And then you can tie that question into, how many miles a year do you drive? How long you plan on keeping your car? So once again, you can refer back to that when a customer says, look, I'm really not interested in the vehicle service contract. You could say to them, look, man, I get it. You just don't want to spend the extra money. But you did mention to me earlier that you're going to be driving this car 18,000 miles a year, and you do plan on keeping it 5 or 6 years. You're going to be out of factory warranty within 2.5 to 3 years. What are you going to do then? And then open up the door for a conversation. Though you're leasing or financing the vehicle for 36 months or 5 years, how long do you feel you'll keep the vehicle? You're leasing it you're financing for 84 months. How long do you feel you're keeping the vehicle? You're leasing it for 36 months. How long do you feel you'll keep the vehicle? Ask the question. Just open up dialogue. That way you can, regurgitate, recycle that dialogue later on. Do you do primarily highway driving? Do you city driving, rural driving? What type of driving do you do? Do you spend a lot of time in the car? Is the car important to you? With regard to transportation, will other people be traveling with you? What do you do for business? Those type of questions. Make it very conversational. Do you plan on taking any road trips? I had a funny conversation with Damien on a webinar just a couple, about 15, 20 minutes ago. You're going up to the Catskills 3-4 times a year, Damien. You're going to have 20,000 miles on that car every year. You can't say that if you don't ask these questions. Oh, I plan on road trips. I go to Florida once a year. I go back north. I go up north once a year. I'm putting 20, 40, 20 to 25,000 miles a year on my car. How many miles a year will you be driving the vehicle? How long you plan on keeping the vehicle? What's your insurance deductible? Very interesting thing happened to me many, many years ago, and I wondered why JM&A and Resource Management told me to ask that question. I need to know the deductible, but what's the importance of it? And then it all clicked. When someone says they have a $200 deductible, they're telling you that they're not willing to take a risk. They'd rather pay a high premium and not be forced to pay a high deductible if they have an accident. Opposed to someone who has a $1,000 deductible, they're telling you that they'd rather have a low premium because they don't anticipate getting into any type of accident and having to pay a deductible. So now it gives you an idea of the type of person that you're dealing with. So you can, it's almost like you run this game film in your head after you go through these series of questions with the customer, have this dialogue with the customer. What do you think about all the latest technology and safety features of the vehicle? I think it's a lot. What research have you done with regard to the technology and safety features on the vehicle? These are really strong questions that allow you to have very good dialogue at the end of your presentation. You're financing a vehicle for 60 months. Did you want coverage for half the time you're financing it or the whole time? I had a business manager at a Satin dealership in Ramsey, New Jersey, who taught me that. And I'll tell you what, this kid in a Satin store was selling 60%, 70% service contracts. And he asked every single customer that question. You know, you're financing a vehicle for 60 months. Instead of, you know, I'm just curious, did you want coverage for the whole time you're financing or half the time? It's a loaded question. No one ever said only half the time. They all said the full time. He said, fine, I just need your signature right here. This is the 60-month service contract. And it was like, done, you know, no rebuttals, nothing. So, lease buyout motives or intentions. One of the things behind a lease buyout is you need to determine why the customer is buying out their lease. You know, John, you made a really interesting point on the last webinar about, you know, the customer exceeded the miles and that's why they're buying it out. That's a great opportunity to sell, you know, and they say that now that you exceeded the miles, doesn't make sense to enroll in the service contract. So again, you need to use their intentions or their motives to sell them product. So determining their motive and intention for buying out their lease, it puts you in a better position to address concerns after you share the coverages that are available to them. Mr. and Mrs. Jones, now that you're buying out your lease, there's a number of lease enhancements or retail or ownership enhancements that you should consider. You didn't need to consider them when you leased the car because the lease company would bear the burden. But now you're going to bear the burden. So let me share with you the options that are available to you to enhance your ownership experience. That's a really good way to get into that lease buyout and get that customer in a, you know, a buying mode. So lease buyout motives and intention. Do you mind if I ask you why you want to purchase the vehicle rather than lease or buy a new model? There you go, Ashley. You know, this is a great way to ask that question and then get the customer thinking of a, you know, a new car. You know, we anticipate the same model car you're having within 3 to 4 months, and GM will extend that lease for the 3 or 4 months. In fact, all I got to do is give them an order number and the payments will stay the same. And with the soaring price of used cars, this means that the buyout may even be more 3 months down the road. Are you willing to take that chance? Well, I don't know if it's a chance, but are you willing to do that? So customer wants to take advantage of the current market. That's one of the reasons why they want to buy out their lease. That was my motive. I think, Mike, you had that same motive. You wanted to take advantage of the market, so you bought out your lease. The vehicle that the customers desire that wants to trade out of or lease again isn't available, so they feel it's best to buy out their lease. Giving them alternatives only sets you up to sell additional products. The customer doesn't want to make payments anymore. That's fine. I can do a one-pay lease. Just keep them in a new car is what I'm trying to say. Customer took good care of the vehicle, wants to keep it. If they say, I took really good care of my car, I want to keep it, I know what it is. Well, remember, the lease company bears the burden of anything going wrong with the vehicle. It's like renting an apartment. You know, you rent an apartment from the landlord. If the roof leaks, they're going to come and fix it. If the pipes leak, they're going to come and fix it. If the air conditioner breaks, they're going to come and fix it. You no longer have the landlord to rely on. And you no longer have the lease company, the manufacturer, to rely on. So there's some ownership enhancements that you should consider when buying out your lease. Now, the customer exceeded the miles allowed and feels it's best to keep it. That's a great segue into the vehicle service contract, obviously. Into GAP, all those products. And then customers under the miles allowed and wants to keep it. That's where this line comes in. I don't even know why I was on the service contract line, Damien. The vehicle has excess wear and tear. Okay, that may not be a good reason to buy out their lease today, only because of the values of vehicles. So you want to take a really hard look at the value of their vehicle and explain that to them. In the past, that was probably a good reason to buy out your lease. But today, with the values of vehicles, let me appraise the vehicle. Let me see what we can do, maybe get you into another car. The customer doesn't want the hassle of car shopping anymore. I don't blame them, especially today. I was taking out the trash last night, and my neighbor stopped me and goes, Jerry, I was trying to call you. I went down to the Toyota dealership, and I bought a new RAV4, and they wanted me to pay sticker price. And I said, yeah, I know. I just bought a car, and I paid sticker price. That's what you're going to pay today, sticker price. But I bet they gave you all the money for your old RAV4. Well, they did. They did. Okay, so stop complaining, you know. Customer wants to sell or gift the car. So what do you plan on doing with the vehicle at the end of your lease? Let's get back to retail. I plan on gifting it or selling it or giving it to my son. That's a funny thing because when I was, I always leased my cars, and while my son was going through high school and college, within 3 months of my lease termination, I would just give him the car and then lease another one because I'd have they talked about pull ahead programs and everything, but I just ended up giving the kid the car. And I think a lot of people do that today. I think a lot of people buy a lease with anticipation of their kids going to college, and at the end of 3 years, buying out the lease and giving it to their kid. So I think that's a great question to ask. Now, I'm really big with transition statements, and we're going to get right back into the service contracts. I hope that answered some of the questions. I know, John, you wanted some questions about lease buyouts and stuff. I hope I addressed those areas for you.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm going to get right back into service contracts. Now, this webinar is all about service contracts. I got to tell you something. Every trainer out there, all they talk about is selling service contracts, selling service contracts. One of the things that we take pride in at Product Prep is that we go the whole gamut. It just so happens that we started with service contracts. And we're going to roll into this. We're going to talk about tire and wheel. We're going to talk about key replacements. We're going to talk about bundles as we roll into the spring market, going into the fall market. I think it's really important that we learn what each product does, the features and benefits of the product. And I think transition statements are what sets the tone, sets us up to sell these products. So these are all about vehicle service contracts. So the base payment of $835 includes a 36-month, 36,000 miles of full mechanical electrical breakdown coverage. Then by choosing the worry-free option, that coverage will be extended to 100,000 miles or 10 years. I don't like reminding people of what they have, but in certain situations, especially when you have 100,000 mile powertrain coverage, I think you can do that, especially when you talk to a customer and they do excessive miles. You can change it up a little bit. My transition statement into the menu has always been, there's a number of options to enhance your ownership experience. I'd like to share those options with you. And then by choosing the vehicle option 1, or the worry-free option, includes a vehicle service contract, which will pay for cover, which will pay for mechanical electrical breakdowns over 5 years, 70 or whatever. Okay. But if you have a customer and you determine that they're going to be putting excess miles on the vehicle, or they're going to drive the car to 100,000 miles, I don't see anything wrong with saying, along with that base payment, it includes a 3-year, 36,000 mile warranty. By choosing the worry-free option, that coverage will be extended for the full term of the powertrain, 10 years or 100,000 miles. You mentioned to me earlier, you'll be keeping the car for 6 or 7 years, that you'll be driving 18,000 miles a year, that you do use the car for business, and being without the car is going to disrupt your business. So having a vehicle service contract and the ability to have a rental car would certainly be a benefit to you. Those is another transition statement. You talk about ownership span, the type of driving they do, the coverage for the whole time they're financing, their view on technology. You mentioned to me earlier, we talked about it earlier, that you view the technology as, very complicated, that you're concerned with some of the technology, whatever. That conversation you had initially with the customer during your introduction or so-called interview is what's going to drive the you mentioned to me earlier, the you told me so's. Look, I'm going to my credit union. The credit union is going to give me the service contract at a discounted price, blah, 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 blah. Listen, the credit union doesn't even have a service department. Why would you want to do that? In fact, if you have a breakdown, you're going to call the credit union and say, look, I have my vehicle breakdown. When can I bring it in? No, you're calling who? You're calling us, all right? So here's another thing that I kind of lost track of this over time. Store brand versus national brand. In other words, CVS brand versus, Neutrogena or whatever, CVS brand versus Bayer Aspirin. What do you rather buy? Would you rather buy the store brand or the national brand? Some people will definitely tell you, I'd rather buy the national brand. Oh, why would you want to buy a service contract from a credit union then? Wouldn't you want to buy the service contract from the dealership? It's the same philosophy. So during your conversation with the customer, when they say, look, I can get the service contract in my credit union. Okay, I'm glad that you see the value in a service contract, but getting it through the credit union may not necessarily be the right thing to do. Hesitate. Why is that? Well, first of all, the credit union doesn't even have a service department. And the customer laughs, you laugh, but it makes sense, man. Think about it. And then go into the national brand or store brand. AAA, I have AAA. Oh man, that used to drive me up a wall. Limo, remember when you go through the presentation, they go, hey, well, I had AAA, and you're like, AAA doesn't do shit, okay?
That's right.
No, it's like, no, you don't understand. AAA will assist you in getting the vehicle to the shop. Then that's it. Then what happens? What do you mean? Well, who pays for it? I do. Well, don't you want someone else to pay for it? Yeah. May I continue? All right. AAA does not pay for the breakdown. Are you familiar with our labor rate? Here we go. Ready? Our labor rate. So I was doing some research on labor rates, and it came to mind when I was thinking about, like, you get a parking ticket and the police tow your car to a facility. It stays there. Where's my car? Where's my car? You go there. They charge you $150 for storage. It took up space in that storage lot. Your vehicle, all that technology in that vehicle is now taking up storage in the vehicle shop. It's on a lift, and you're paying for every hour that car sits on that lift. Think about it. At $1.30 an hour, most of these cars are just there to have their software updated. How long did it take to update software in some of these vehicles via satellite? 2, 3, 4 hours. And they don't even replace a part. And you're paying $400, $500, $600 for labor. That's why I want you to be familiar with our labor rate. What's your understanding of the manufacturer's warranty? That's a great question to ask. You can't ask that question if you start your presentation off with, let me tell you what the factory warranty is. You can't get the customer's understanding of it unless you ask them. What's your understanding of the factory warranty? It's a great warranty. It's for a 100,000-mile warranty. It's for 36,000-mile warranty. Actually, there's 3 warranties, and I'll get into that in a couple slides. I get it. You like the vehicle service contract, you just don't see enough value in it to make pay the additional amount. I've been going through this F&I thing, sales thing, and looking at people my whole career and saying, I understand you don't see any value. I understand you're on a budget. I'm sick and tired of saying that. I understand you don't want to spend the extra money. I understand you don't see enough value. Because you certainly see value in a service contract. Don't tell me you don't, all right? Especially based on the information you shared with me earlier. The challenge you face in your head is, do you want to spend the extra money? That's the real challenge, right? Yep. Well, there may be another way of looking at it. Do you mind if I share something with you? There may be another way of looking at it. Opens the door. It's almost like throwing them a life preserver. You threw them overboard. They're sinking or swimming, and you throw them a life preserver, and then you have that conversation with them, open their mind, and now they see enough value to spend the money because it all made sense. You talk about the technology. You talk about the fact that they're going to be driving the car. You talk about the fact that things could happen, better to have and not needed. You talk about in New Jersey or New York or Pennsylvania that you have this thing called Easy Pass, or even the state of Florida, where you're spending money month in and month out. You never even look at the credit card to see how much you spent on these tolls. You have, Amazon Prime. You spend anywhere from $19 to $25 a month. We spend needlessly in our society today. I'm not saying spend needlessly, but spend on something that has value. A vehicle service contract, if something were to go wrong, you're paying $25, $30, $40, $50 a month for this right now. You could be faced with a $3,000, $4,000 bill. You're going to look back at the $50 you spent a month and say, thank God I spent it. That's the type of conversations you want to have with your customer. Seriously, that's what works. Maybe another way of looking at it, you mind if I explain? You mind if I share something with you? You mind if I show you something? I would take all placemats off desk. I would take all the brochures off the desk. I would keep them in some type of binder, an evidence manual, and I would bring them out only when needed. I think point of sale material is important at certain points in your conversation with the customer. I think they're neon signs when they're displayed all over your office, though. So with that said, there's my favorite transition statements when trying to sell a service contract to a customer. Customers have many concerns when trying to sell them a service contract. I just don't want it. You got to be able to tell them, I know you want it, you just don't want to pay for it. I can't afford it. I'm on a budget. Look, I know you can afford it. You just don't want to spend the extra money. Come on, man. I don't want my payments to go up. I understand the last thing you wanted to have happen when you came in my office, your payments to go up. Hey, maybe they don't have to. Let's just extend the term. That's a lot of money, but look at all it does. I'll take my chances. So you do see a risk. I had it before and never used it, but you did have peace of mind. My friend's a mechanic. Oh yeah, what dealership does he work at? And does he have all the latest technology to diagnose your problem with your vehicle? This is my third Honda. It never had a problem in the past. That doesn't mean you're going to never have a problem in the future, okay? And this is a lot different than the Honda you had in the past. Wouldn't you agree? Do I have to let you know now? Can I think about it? Certainly you wouldn't say that if you weren't somewhat interested in the program. Maybe I can answer some questions that you may have. I have the manufacturer's warranty. Why pay for something I won't use? I don't think you'll ever use it either, but you never can tell. Isn't that true? And based on the information you shared with me earlier, you're going to be out of that manufacturer's warranty that you're relying on within 2.5 to 3 years. So doesn't it make sense to at least reconsider the service contract? I was told not to buy it. Okay, who told you not to buy it? Dad? Howard Stern? Joe Biden? Can't you make up your own mind, you little bastard? No, listen. What that drill I just took you through, I love doing that. Only because if you sit with a finance manager that can't do that, you got to teach him to do that, because that's confidence, man. When you sit in front of a customer and they say, I just don't want it. And you're able to look at it and say, yeah, you do. Don't lie to me. You just don't want to spend the money. Or they say, do I have to let you know now? And you immediately say, no, you don't have to let me know now, but you certainly wouldn't ask me that if you weren't, had some interest in the program. Let me answer some questions you might have. We got to teach and we got to practice, drill and rehearse. Our finance managers and the finance managers on this webinar, you need to address those concerns, or have it and be able to address those concerns like a Tommy gun. But don't be a Tommy gun. Take a deep breath and just relax. That's what makes this so much fun. Now, you mentioned to me earlier, I'm surprised you had no interest in the vehicle service contract or the worry-free option, because the primary reason you're buying out your lease is that you kept really good care of it. So doesn't it make sense to make sure you're in a better position if the market turns in the wrong direction? I'm curious, now that you'll be owning the vehicle and potentially benefit from having the vehicle service contract, what is it about the vehicle service contract that concerns you? I get it. You don't see enough value in the option, or the vehicle service contract may ask you a question. Okay, what question? How many miles a year do you think you'll be driving the car now? Has your lifestyle changed? How long do you plan on keeping it after you buy it out? You're going to be financing it for 5 years. I get it. You don't see enough value in the options. May I share something with you? So again, lease buyout. I brought another slide in on lease buyout. It's all about you mentioned to me earlier. You got to have this in your dialogue. You'll be able to come back with some really strong rebuttals and replies. What if? I mean, what if? What if you did have a breakdown? What are you going to do? I know more about you than you know about yourself. I got your credit report. I know how much you spend a month. I know how much you're obligated to. I know your DTI. I know what you're going to do. You're going to whip out the plastic at 14%. Why would you want to do that when you can finance it at 2.9%? Think about it. You get a $1,000 repair, it's going to cost you $1,140 that day, that same day, $1,140, and let you pay it off that month, which you're not going to based on your credit report. Your minimum payment's going up $25. So doesn't it make sense to keep the plastic in the wallet and finance the service contract, or finance these options? Very strong closes, makes sense. People look at you and go, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, sign me up. It all makes sense, and when you're able to talk to people that, more it's for training purposes, I think you guys get the message. You got to be a little bit more, less abrasive, I guess. Point of sale material. I take the time to Google this stuff. I'll spend hours Googling until I see the right slide, the thing that I want. I can hold this slide up to a customer who refused to buy a service contract or any other product for that matter, and as I'm printing paperwork, just stick it right in front of their nose and say, I just want you to take a look at what's controlling your vehicle while I print the rest of the paperwork. And just drop it right in front of them. Within 5 minutes, they're saying to you, what's this, what's that, what's that? And the next thing you know, you're signing them up for a service contract. I don't know how many times I've done that. watch other finance managers do that, and they sold product. How many times when I was a finance manager and the customer said, no, 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 I don't want it. Don't even show me that menu. No, 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 get it out of here. I just drop it on the desk. I'd say, I'll be right back. I had to get some paperwork, leave the office, walk around the building, come back, come to my office, and the menu's in their hand. And I look at it and go, you got any questions? And they start asking me questions about the menu. You know, we had a very interesting conversation with Ashley Rogers. She's on this webinar today about she gives out this menu. It's a menu of all the products that she has available in the finance office, but no pricing on it, just a description of the products to these folks that are ordering cars or pre-orders, and she just hands it to them and maybe a little discussion. And she doesn't, when they come back, she doesn't say, did you have a chance to look over it? She just assumes they did and go, you know, boom, 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 and she's selling over two products per deal. I'm not going to tell her what her PVR is. It doesn't matter. The fact that she's selling it multiple products is what matters the most. But she's had really good success with people investigating things on their own. That's what I call it. You know, it gives people a chance to digest the information rather than just throw it down their throat, you know. So this illustration, I just Googled it. I thought that was really cool. Let's take a look at what's controlling your vehicle. Here's another slide. Let's take a look at what's controlling your vehicle. This is, you know, that word track. Let's take a look at what's controlling your vehicle, because you're certainly not controlling it, you know. That glass of ice, I came to a conclusion probably 2 years ago that if I tell someone powertrain coverage, this is what they see. They see wheels, they see engine. That's powertrain coverage in someone's mind. They don't see that glass of water. They don't see everything inside this that's surrounded by oil that's being maintained. So I use that analogy. You take a glass of water, drop some ice cubes in it. The only thing that's covered on the powertrain coverage is what those ice cubes, because they're surrounded by the water. Anything outside of that glass is not covered. So the only thing is covered is those ice cubes. And the nice thing about the ice cubes is in their head, you could say, and over time, ice cubes melt through wear and tear and break down. And it's just a really good analogy or illustration of, I think, powertrain coverage. So here's some more examples. Unbundling the automobile. Those are the manufacturers. That slide shows who's making the components in these vehicles today. It's not the manufacturer. The only thing the manufacturer makes, and you can stress this outside of Michigan, that the only thing that's manufactured by that's made by the manufacturer is, in fact, the powertrain. Everything else is sublet, and it's bidded on, and every year it changes. You know, the computers, the wires, the glass, even the glass, you know, the metal, everything's made by someone else. So those are just illustrations of that you can share with your customer with regard to vehicle service contracts. And then there's others. The technology, you know, you can take a car now and it's almost like there's a helicopter over the car when you're driving it. It's crazy. It's ridiculous. Adaptive cruise control. It's awesome. You know, I drove over to Miami last week, 80 miles an hour the whole time, never even touched it. It was like, I left at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I swear to God, I never touched the brake. I just kept it all the way down 75, John. I was like crazy. And it like would slow down, cars would come in, the guy, woo, and it was like, I was like smoking my cigar. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. 4.5 hours across Alligator Alley, just adaptive cruise control. It's ridiculous. And then people get in front of you and the car brakes and all that stuff. It's just the technology. And then the bloodline, the car, the wiring harness. Why do you think they total cars out today? A Gap, selling Gap. You could show that illustration when all the technology behind these cars. That's why they get totaled. I mean, you pay $80,000 for a car and you have a front end collision, they total the friggin' thing because of all the technology. So let's take a look at what's controlling your vehicle. So here's another one. Here's some information I think you'll find interesting. Look, I don't have to sit in front of a customer and read this whole thing to them. All I got to do is put it in front of them. The mistake a lot of finance managers make, seriously, is we hand them these articles, and what they do is they put them in a frame and they just have them on their desk. And they expect customers to like gravitate towards it. You got to pull that frame out and say, look, take a look at this while I print the rest of the paperwork. All right? Because they're not looking to, oh, what's that? You know, oh, let me see that. Oh, how many times have you had a customer pull out a brochure? Oh, man, this is awesome. How much is it? Never happened. All right? So you got to take the initiative and hand it to them. AAA, 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 AAA. I had AAA. Oh, everybody has AAA. Let me share some AAA articles that I've collected over time. There was the close when I was with AutoNation we used to use. It was the AAA close and how much they said it would cost per mile of driving. We used it a lot. We don't use it as much today, but I don't have that illustration here. But that's out there too. Just look at AAA articles, you know, AAA service contract articles. That's all I Google, and this is the stuff that comes up. So it says, I highlighted, AAA says in this article, which was written just 2 years ago, that the average consumer should save $50 a month for maintenance cost of a vehicle. And then once the factory warranty expires, save another $50 for unexpected breakdowns. Think about that. The service contract is less than $100 a month. It's like 40 bucks a month for a service contract, and AAA saying save 100. You know, get the maintenance program, you're still under 100. Now you got your maintenance covered and your service covered. And a great complement to the service contract is the maintenance. And by the way, now that you're covering the mechanical aspect of the vehicle, doesn't it make sense to cover the most vulnerable part of your car? Oh yeah, what's that? The tires and wheels? Multiple products, baby. That's how you do it. All right, so a couple more articles. Here's some information I think you find interesting. Just this year, I was reading, you know, automotive news, and January and December, they placed the average 12-month in-service cost over the last 4 years for every vehicle that's registered in the United States. Now, what I find interesting about that is that some vehicles had, every vehicle basically had a cost associated with its in-service. These are repairs. This isn't maintenance. This is repairs. The average, and it might only say $158 is average, but that's the average of every single Mercedes-Benz C-Class that's been registered in the United States. One of them could be 10,000 and the other one could be 60 bucks. So that was in automotive news. We have this available. I know that I sent the PDF out to Damien to put on Product Prep, so it's available. All these articles, everything we're sharing with you is available in Product Prep. So let's take a look at the frequency repair close. This is what I call a good close. This was one of my favorite closes until I got to a better close. And how this works is when you find someone in a position where they're understanding, what's your understanding of factory warranty? Well, I have 3 years. Well, you do, but you don't based on your driving habits, because, you know, the customer can't translate like we can, the car lane. You know, we expect customers to understand it's 3 years or 36,000 miles. I got to tell you something, ladies and gentlemen, most do, some don't. So we need to put it in writing. So here's the frequency of repair. Let me explain the warranty you do have and how you may be exposed to repairs, or the frequency of repairs, Mr. and Mrs. Jones. I'm going to make this little chart here. These lines represent the number of years that you're going to own the car. And you mentioned to me that you're going to own it for 5 years. This 3-year, 36,000 mile warranty, you drive 18,000 miles a year. So you're going to be out of factory warranty within 2 years, because it's 36,000 miles, you'll be at 18. Now, here's the question. Why does the manufacturer limit their liability to 3 years or 36,000 miles? Now, the customer may say to you, well, I got 60,000 miles on the powertrain, and then I'll give you another one, the 90-10 on that one in a minute. But powertrain coverage, remember this, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, you're maintaining the vehicle and it's surrounded by oil. So the likelihood of powertrain, something on the powertrain, is unlikely. That's why they extend the term. It's all the electronics and technical components that they put a stop on after 3 years of 36,000 miles, because what they found is what they call the frequency of repair. Those parts have a tendency of breaking down or slowing down after the 3 year or 36,000 miles. So based on their research and your driving habits, the frequency of repair has a chance of increasing within 2 years of ownership. Now, do you want coverage the first 2 years of ownership, or do you want coverage the second 3 years of ownership.
Hmm.
Well, I wanted the second 3 years of ownership. Well, I got good news. We'll cover it the whole time, $28 a month. So that's the frequency of repair. That's a good close, okay? It's even better when you illustrate it like we just did. Now, this is another good close, 99.9% reliable. Now, I have this thing I learned from a finance manager called 90-10. I want you to understand 90% of your vehicle is made up of technology, electronics, computers. Only 10% are made up of powertrain. In other words, lubricated components. So what's the chance of 90% of your car breaking down versus 10% of your car? That's the question. So I believe nothing in this world is 100%. Very few things are. And I think you'd be really, really happy if over the next 5 years or 6 years, this vehicle you just purchased was 99.9% reliable. Wouldn't you, Mr. and Mrs. Jones? Oh, yeah. Do you mind if we take a look at what 99.9% reliable looks like? No, let's take a look. That vehicle has over 5,000 components. Multiply that by 99.9. That means there's 4,995 components that are fail-safe. They're not going to go wrong with it, even if your vehicle is 99.9% wrong, reliable. But that does leave 5 components that could fail. But let's cut that in half, all right? 2.5 products at an average cost to repair $800. Even if your vehicle is 99.9% reliable, you stand a chance of spending at minimum $1,600 over the next 5 to 6 years. Well, I got 2 years of warranty or 3 years of warranty. Yeah, but you're keeping the car for the 5 years. Isn't it better to spend the $30 a month and have to be faced with having to write a check for $1,600 down the road? Even if your vehicle's 99.9% reliable. Yeah, that makes sense. So that's a good close. This is the better close. At least I thought it was when I first did it. 90% of your car, 10% of your car, powertrain. 10% of your car is made up of the powertrain. 90% of your car is made up of electronic components. That means, what's the chance of now keep in mind, the 10% of your car that's powertrain is being maintained by you. The 90% of your car is not being maintained. What's the likelihood of a component not being maintained to break down versus a component that is being maintained to break down? The customer says, well, a component that's not being maintained could break down. And that's 90% of your car. That's why the manufacturer will extend themselves out to the 100,000 miles on these cars. And that's not necessarily true, especially in a Hyundai dealership, because I take you to the service department, see all those black boxes? Those are all engines. It's true. At 90,000 miles, we're replacing engines in these cars. So the manufacturer warranty has 3 parts, may I explain. The first part is 12 months to 12,000 miles. That's an adjustment period. Now, you have to look at your manufacturer, because I was quite surprised when I found out that Chevrolet is only 7 years or 7,000 miles. Everybody else that I've investigated has been 12 months to 12,000 miles. We call it the adjustment period, because while you're adjusting to the car's adjusting to you. And that's another good way to sell a service contract on a used car, because the driving habits of the previous owner are going to be a lot different than your driving habits. So the car has been conditioned to that person. It's going to have to get reconditioned to you. I know that doesn't make a lot of sense in the service, but think about it, okay? Your habits are going to be different from that person's habits. Therefore, something could go wrong with the vehicle. That's why a service contract will be more important to you this time around. But let's get back to this rebuttal. 12 months, 12,000 miles, you're adjusting to the car's adjusting to you. The manufacturer's going to stand behind it. In other words, the hood's got to be adjusted. Hey, even if, a light bulb goes out, they're going to fix it. In some cases, Subaru will replace a wiper blade, depending on the manufacturer. Then you have the basic warranty, which everybody refers to as bumper to bumper, even the manufacturer. That's for 3 years or 36, could be 4 years, 50, could be whatever the manufacturer is. That's on the electronics, that's on the whole car, everything, except for sheet metal, glass, and maintenance. Now, it doesn't cover bumpers, but it does cover virtually every component in between, with the exception of sheet metal, glass, and maintenance. Then you have the powertrain coverage. It ranges anywhere from 6 years to 560 to 6 years 100, 10-year 100, whatever the manufacturer has. The question you want to ask your customer is, now that you know the 3 warranties you have in the vehicle, I've asked myself, why would the manufacturer limit their time as time goes on and reduce the coverages as time goes on? And the customer goes, I don't know, why? Well, they did some research, and what they found is the components that are being maintained and surrounded by oil, such as the powertrain, have very little chance of breaking down. It's those components, the electronic components and all the technology components that aren't being maintained after wear and tear have a tendency of breaking down. Wouldn't you agree? Yeah. So can you see where there's question marks in your warranty, factory warranty? In fact, the question I have of the manufacturer is this warranty only protects them, because if you don't maintain the vehicle, they're not going to fix anything anyways. So wouldn't you want to have the whole car covered for the whole time you're driving it? That's one of my best closes. I see finance managers use that close on the back of their menus and put the illustration in the deal jacket just to prove they used it. And those finance managers that use this close consistently to sell service contracts, minimum 60% service contract, minimum. Some of them go as high as 80%. It's just, it's really good. And the key to it is opening up the dialogue and starting talking about the technology and stuff behind. And then, I always say, make the shopper your friend. To just say that rebuttal isn't going to have the same impact as if you write it down, and illustrate it. And this is what I call the platinum close. This close, when I first learned this close, I just thought it was amazing. I've gone through my whole career telling people, back in the 70s and 80s when I was smoking, it's only a pack of cigarettes a day, and then Starbucks comes along, it's $3 a cup of coffee. It's only a Starbucks a day. And then I realized that I was taking a pack of cigarettes a day from them and Starbucks coffee. I remember having one guy when I was at Ira Toyota. He was sitting there. He was a garbage truck driver. Smelled like garbage, but he had a lottery ticket in his top pocket of his jacket. I'll never forget that. And I looked at that lottery ticket. He said, no, I ain't buying nothing. I ain't buying nothing. I looked at him. I said, looks like you play the lottery. He goes, every day. I go, how much you spend a day on the lottery? He goes, well, enough. I go, how much? He goes, $5, $10. $5, $10? How often do you win? He goes, not that often. I go, you spend $5, $10 a day on lottery tickets, and here I'm asking you to spend, a friggin' $1 a day for all this stuff. But I tell you what, if you buy this stuff, it's a win-win. And he goes, yeah, how's that? He goes, because you'll always win. You'll never lose. If something breaks down, it'll be repaired. So you spend the money here, it's a win-win. You spend the money there, you hardly ever win. The guy looks at me and goes, yeah, it's a win-win. Sign me up. He scratched off his ticket. He didn't win a shit. I said, maybe scratch him off in front of me. Maybe you can pay for all this stuff right now, including the car. Well, here's the deal. I call this, we budget monthly, we spend daily. Reduce it to the ridiculous was the name of the close back then. Now it's reduce it to reality. Here's the reality, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody budgets monthly. They don't budget to the degree that they write everything down. They just make sure that the bank has enough money, or this, everything's really ACH now. Everything's automatic. Everything's paper trail. Just make sure the money's in the bank. We even have overdraft protection in case it ain't. But you still run around all day with money in your pocket. It might not be cash, it's an ATM or whatever, and you're buying this and you're buying that. I know Ashley's online. She spends $50 to $60 a day. That's what she said anyway.
I do.
Most people will spend $5 to $10. Well, go ahead, Ashley.
My Red Bull alone is $6 a day.
Jesus. Whoa. Hey, some people spend that, every day. We call that disposable income. The disposable income is the income that you don't need in the bank. Okay? Everybody has disposable income, especially if they're standing in front of you in a Cadillac or Mercedes-Benz store. You need to tell them about, look, I understand don't tell me you don't want the products. I know you see value, you just don't see enough value to spend the extra money. There may be another way of looking at it. Can I share something with you? Have them do it on their phone, on the calculator on their phone, and hand them a small calculator and say, look, take your monthly payment, divide that by let's write it down. On most days, I spend between $5 and $10 a day. How much do you spend? Oh, I spend $20 to $30 a day. Oh, okay. So he gets $1 a day ain't going to change your lifestyle in any way, shape, or manner. So your base payment's $483. Let's divide that by, and the vehicle payment is $38, and you can't see yourself spending the extra $38 because that's going to take the payment over $500. I understand. I get it. All right. Here's another way of looking at it, though. If we were to take that 438 divided by 30, that's the average days in a month. That money's already in the bank. That's $16.10. Let's just round it up to down to $16. So you're spending $16 a day for this car, whether you knew it or not. You could be in Hawaii on vacation, car parked in a parking garage where you're spending $10 a day for parking, maybe 20. You're still paying that $16 a day. Can't get away from it. Can't run away from it. The service contract, 38 divided by the same 30, how much is that? And you ask them, is it $1.27? Did you say $1.27? So what you're telling me for $1.25 a day, is that going to change your lifestyle in any way, shape, or manner? No. So for $17, why don't you just take the service contract? If $1 a day isn't going to change your lifestyle in any way, shape, or manner, but certainly having to write a check for my $500, $600, $700, $800 might, right? That's the platinum close. I just love that close. In conclusion, number one, know the all. Know the all. Know the all. Know all the vehicle service contract features and benefits firsthand. Get the you told me so's. Oh, you mentioned to me earlier. Develop really strong transition statements. Do some research and be better prepared. I just learned something, very valuable lesson. Someone tell me later. Check PowerPoint before going through it. Don't fear the objection. Don't fear the reaper. Handle it. Show and tell, baby. Show and tell. Okay? That's what it all takes. Expose yourself, all right? And develop a track to run on. Based on the information you share with your customer, the customer share with you. This not only will help you to sell more service contracts, it will also help you sell more products. F&I is a tough job, but it gets a lot easier when you're better prepared. So I hope you enjoyed the webinar. That's all I got. Open it up for questions. So we had a nice little group here. I think it's good for taping anyways, to make a good taped episode.
It will. It was awesome, Jerry. You know, I mean, I can't wait to do that for Tire and Wheel and, you know, bundle products and all the other products too, because the process is so good, right? It's simple on paper, but you just got to practice, drill, and rehearse. And I really like that drill of those rebuttals that you said. I think we're going to use that. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, we're going to do it again. We're going to do it again. I think let's reach out to our customer base and see what product they want to do, and we'll set it up.
Okay.
All right.
We'll get it done.
All right, and whatever product it is, we'll do it.
Okay. Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you,
All right, guys.
Jerry.
Have a good
Good stuff.
weekend, and
Bye, Jerry.
Great job, Jerry.
Guys.
Thank you.
talk to you guys later. Thanks.
Bye-bye.